Welcome back into the show. It is late. We have a Sweet 16. We are joined by a sweet, sweet duo. For the second show in a row, it is Adam Finkelstein joining. And look at that, the one and only Sam Vecenie back on the show, back for an entire show. GP in the studio late yet again. We've been getting some comments. Why can't Norlander and Parrish do the podcast together when the tournament's happening? Because we both have studio duties, and I got to go out and fly and go to the West Regional, so we're not going to hop on the show at 2:45 a.m. Can't do that. Happy to have these fellas on. Sam obviously making his annual appearance on the pod. Jersey Mike's, by the way, this podcast is sponsored by Jersey Mike's. Proud sponsor also of the Naismith Award. Jersey Mike's would like to offer their congratulations to all athletes on the watch list. For the second consecutive night, we have big-time ball, major action to get to. Don't tell me this tournament isn't the best thing in sports. Don't tell me. The surprise, the awe, the shock, the chalk? Nah, no. No 4-1 seeds getting back to the Final Four. See ya in a couple of decades, okay? Florida is out of this thing. Iowa got it done in incredible fashion, shocking fashion. Sam, Fink, happy to have you on the show. We're going to talk about all 8 games. We're going to dive in right here, right now. I'm going to go to Sam first. I got notes galore on this, but the floor is yours. Quite literally, Sam. It's a pleasure to have you back. I know we try and get to you with regularity, but this time, no GP. You're good to go. Thanks for joining us. Floor is yours on this game and whatever you want to get going with this pod.
Well, the timing worked out perfect. It's like 4 p.m. here in Australia. So given that you guys needed a night owl, it's great. But the first thing that I have to talk about here is how much better Norlander has gotten at the intros and things like that since I departed the show. It's unbelievable. We got rhyming now. We got all sorts of real, genuine skill and talent as a host. Not to say you didn't have it before, but my God, Listen to that man's voice.
Shots of plenty. Between you and Fornelli, and don't worry, Fornelli is so insufferable, his Illini are in the Sweet 16. Good God. But I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you so much. I didn't screw up the sponsor read at the top of the show. Good to go. I say Iowa beats Florida, becomes the 9th 9 seed to beat a 1 ever. Sam Vecenie, you say what?
First and foremost, Ben McCollum is just genuinely one of the elite coaches in college basketball. And I think that the quicker we all recognize that, the easier it will be to understand this. I genuinely thought this was probably the best chess match coaching wise that we've seen in the tournament to this point. For the first 27 minutes of this game, it felt like Iowa was able to get whatever it wanted in terms of running ball screens at Alex Condon, playing in drop coverage. And then right around the 13 to 14 minute mark of the second half, Florida switches their defense. They start switching all actions, right? And from that point, they were to make it a little bit more difficult for Iowa to get the shots that they want. And then this became a really tight one and a really tightly contested battle. I loved the way that Iowa then came up with some adjustments to find shots when they started denying Sturts the ball. I loved the back and forth of this game, and I thought that in the end, Ben McCollum ended up just getting the better by a hair of Todd Golden. And I think that's exactly where I wanted to start with this.
You sounded just like Parrish just now. It's just amazing. That's exactly the things he would have said, without a doubt. Fink, your takeaways on the game.
Well, the only thing he missed was, I say this to say that...
I say all that to say.
That you know what's funny? I've picked that up on my show now because of him. Like I say that all the time.
By the way, the Game Theory podcast. It's a Game Theory podcast with Sam Vecenie. Please do check it out.
I said it once and then I put myself in the penalty box. So anyways, the thing that surprised me most going into this game, if you had told me that Bennett Sturts was going to be 5 of 16 from the floor and 0 of 9 from the 3-point line, I would have told you that Florida was going to win by double figures. So the thing that I thought was most surprising was that Iowa played them even inside the paint. Now, a lot of that is a credit to the game planning and how well they executed and how well they spaced and moved. But the fact that they shot 70% on 2-point field goals, I thought was really telling. Ruben Chignello had 0 points and 1 rebound in 19 minutes. I thought that was, really problematic for Florida. And then as good as Kondo was offensively, because he had 21 and 7, was certainly targeted, as Sam mentioned, on the defensive end of the floor. So not the way that I would have expected Iowa to be able to pull off an upset, but obviously this all leads to what was just an epic, thrilling finish.
There's so much to get to from this game. Oh man. There are no Cinderellas left in this tournament. I'm very much a stickler on this. You cannot be a Cinderella unless you are a bona fide mid-major program. But between Nebraska and Iowa, those are the two closest you could possibly get, and they are extremely likable. They're going to play in the Sweet 16. We'll get a quickie Sweet 16 look ahead at the end of the podcast. I agree with Sam on the matching wits. They also carry themselves similarly in terms of their confidence, their swagger, their arrogance, and to see those guys chirping back and forth against with each other was, I thought it was great. I mean, they were pissed off. There was some feisty play. There was some chippy play. Iowa showed up and wasn't going to take any shit whatsoever, despite the fact that from a physicality and roster and size standpoint, like I sent it earlier, broadly speaking, Iowa has no business beating that Florida team, but that's what the tournament can provide you, man. Again, the continual capacity to shock and awe us. Just when we think we know it, we don't. And how about this? We just can't get reigning champions to get to the Sweet 16. It is insane how many reigning champions over the past 15 years haven't done it. In fact, the only one that has is the UConn team that went back-to-back. Incredible stuff. McCollum is a coaching wizard. And I was so damn impressed. Here's McCollum's record in the NCAA tournament, including D2. You ready for this? 35-8. 35-8. He's 3-1 in the D1 tournament, 32-7 in D2, which includes 4 national titles at Northwest Missouri State. Masterclass stuff. How about Florida with only 1 block in this game, guys? How about Iowa? Fink mentioned it before, 19 of 27 from 2-point range. Ironically enough, didn't shoot well from 3, but the 7th final one in the corner there, beautiful no-look pass from Sturts. They hit that one, and I just thought the design was great. Sturts not even having a good game. He had 13 points, 5 of 16 from the field, 0 of 9 from beyond the arc. It was his most misses without a make from 3 in his career. So he was probably at a C+ overall. But then you've got Alvaro Fulgaris, Fulgaris, by the way, for our Queens of the Stone Age fans out there. He goes for 14 points. A Robert Morris transfer hits the winner. Incredible scenes all around there for Iowa. Can we talk last plays here and actually how this game ended with Iowa choosing to run what it did, getting that 3 up? If you actually watch that play and how it played out, they were even in decent position to get the offensive rebound. Golden talked about afterward how they were trying to foul to extend the game. Yes, foul up 2, which is a concept that he and his one of his chief assistants, Jonathan Sapphire, kind of pioneered about a half decade ago. Sam, I'll throw it right back to you. Give me anything you want on the ending sequence that actually led to Iowa ripping this upset.
So, yeah, I have no problem with the foul up 2 strategy. Would I employ it? I don't know. It's like a 50-50 case to me. Against Iowa, I don't know that I would have necessarily, if only because they had 3 or 4 80% foul shooters out there on the court. But if you're going to do it, and again, I don't have a problem with Florida doing it. I think to me, what the problem was execution. Because if there's one guy to me that you can't let catch the ball in that circumstance, it's Bennett Sturts. And if you're going to do this, to me, I think you need to play the man defending the inbounder off of the inbounder and have him deny Sturts the ball. At the end of the day, wherever he is, he needs to go find Sturts and double, especially if you're going to play trailing coverage and have Boogie Fland go over the top or under, in that case, I guess, that screen. It just makes it too easy for Sturts to potentially catch the ball downhill. I would imagine that their execution in terms of how they wanted this to work was they wanted Xavier Lee to help more aggressively off of his man, the screener, in order to be there to foul Sturts and make sure that he didn't get downhill. But to me, I think it's just a lot easier. If you're going to press in that circumstance, the one situation you can't have is you can't have Bennett Sturts, one of the most creative, high-level, intelligent basketball players in the entire country, going downhill with a potential 3-on-2 situation with 10 seconds left in the game or whatever it was.
The thing that I would add to that is just the set itself. If that was run in a half court, we would call that Iverson action, like that kind of stagger screen where he cuts over the top. And it's not uncommon in a full court situation, but the fact that Boogie Fland was face guarding him, trying to deny Sturts the pass, I think the thing that I haven't heard anybody talk about this, that inbounds pass had to be thrown just right, had to thread that needle because that angle was so fine. So that was as big of a pass as there was all game long. And then it was just in a complete disadvantage there. I've heard like Thomas Hawk should have stayed on the corner. Well, there was no one else near the ball. So if he doesn't go get Sturts, then Sturts is going to get a layup and tie the game. So Hawk was really in a almost impossible situation, but great read by Sturts. I thought it was great trust of the teammate and it was so fitting for like the old school Iowa basketball team to end this on a bounce pass too. I just thought there was like something poetic about that.
Yeah, Dan Dickow was in studio tonight with me, John Henson, and Akeem Dermish, and he made the point, which is a good point that people just take for granted. Like high pressure moment, that pass, and then Sturts brings it up the floor. It's a little no look. And the actual angle and speed of the bounce pass was perfect. Like it wasn't too low. You kind of got to have the real kind of touch on that. It speaks to Sturts' ability overall and great talent as a point guard that they got that done. Really impressive stuff. Josh, if we could, they had a good post game moment in the press conference after where Sturts was speaking about the winner here from his teammate. Give a quick listen to what they said was said in the huddle before they actually won the game.
Drawn up for me to get downhill, and then this dude came up to me. He's like, I'm going to be ready, and I'm going to make it. That's what he did.
Did you actually say that?
He said that.
If we got it.
I said that.
You're a crazy man.
I did.
And he made
Do
it.
we have
That was
it?
me. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got
You guys? Oh, it's they're saying it's playing. I don't hear it. Sorry.
yeah, irrational confidence.
That too.
I love it.
I mean, I work a lot to be
I know
where I am right now.
I know. Just
So, yeah.
Good stuff there. I might have a little bit of a slow internet connection there, so I think you guys heard it in real time. I didn't hear it when it started up there, but that was really, really good stuff. Josh, if you want to play as B-roll the McCollum and Golden trash talking each other, I thought that just took this to an even another level. We see this in arena here. I mean, we got McCollum no jacket on with the clipboard there. Golden, who has not been shy about talking his trash the entire season. I thought it was excellent. I thought it gave the night even more juice. By the way, I don't know what the lines were, but this was the only upset on the KenPom line. Every other result we're going to talk about, the team that KenPom projected to win did win. Now, there were some narrow ones there, like Bama was a slight favorite. It destroyed them. Tennessee was a slight favorite. It won close. But this is the only one that was an outright upset there. And good on Iowa for doing it, man. Like, they did not have a strong resume this season. They were a solid team, but like when you looked at actually what they had done, like hadn't had a lot of world-beating wins. Going into the tournament, Iowa's best wins were home against UCLA, at Indiana, at Washington, home against Nebraska. Like that kind of, like there's some stuff in there, but nothing to this level. So extremely impressive there. Tavion Banks, by the way, had a team high 20. We haven't mentioned his name yet, and he did himself a really nice job. Condon had 21, 7 dimes in the loss. Hauk had himself 19. And then on the final play for Florida, we obviously need to talk about this. This is the second game this tournament, and Sam's Buckeyes are the other one where a team had a chance to tie or win the game, and the play did not go as planned. And what a bitter irony for Florida. A year after you win the title because the team you played on the last possession couldn't get a shot off, as reigning champions, your tournament run ends after you cannot get a shot off yourselves. Lee must have just got himself lost at time and place and space and couldn't get it to Hauk. Even if he got it in time, I don't think Hauk was getting off the shot. So, Fink, that was just that was a little bit bitter. And Lee actually, I thought, comported himself quite well in the second half of the season. That was a little bit of a worry with him and Flan to start, but that was a bitter way for that one to end.
Todd spoke about this in the post-game press conference. They asked him if it was drawn up to be a pass, and he said his preference would have been if Lee got it on the rim. He thought that he had a step on his defender, and if he jumped backwards, he would have been able to draw the foul. So I think he was kind of trying to point out, not throw his guy under the bus, but basically say, like, which is logical. Like, no, we wanted to get the ball on the rim and let our offensive rebounders have a chance for a tip in. That's what you assume you would do there. And I think that play might have been open. But he elected to make the pass there. And in that second, the other thing Todd said was there were, I think it was 67 possessions in this game, and everybody's going to talk about the last one, but there were plenty of things in the other 66 that led to the outcome. I'm paraphrasing here, but that was the general sense of his response when asked about it in the post-game press conference.
Well, and the reality of the Florida season this year, in my opinion, even though they got nuclear hot to end the year up until they lost to Vanderbilt, in the SEC tournament, was they weren't as versatile lineup-wise as what they were a season ago. And they didn't quite have the downhill creative guard that they had last year. Unbelievable shot maker, Walter Clayton as well, but he's an underrated athlete that could get downhill. And that ended up biting them both in the game throughout the entirety of it, where I think they were kind of afraid to go small because their bread and butter this season has been, hey, let's have Ruben Chinyelu, Alex Condon, Thomas Houck, our three best players on the court all at once. And we don't feel great confidence in the guards, even though Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee got drastically better throughout the course of the season. And Urban Klavchar is one of the best backup guards in the league. They didn't have that Will Richard, that wing that would allow them to potentially play Will Richard at the 2 and then have one of those guys on the court with their 3 bigs. Will Richard sometimes even slid down to the 4 last year and let them go super small and flexible and have all sorts of different lineup constructions because of his length. So to me, when I look at the Florida roster, it just was one that was missing one flexible wing piece, and it ended up biting them throughout the entirety of the game tonight, in my opinion.
I think that's a fair and valid point. I got a few nuggets for you, and we can keep it moving. There's obviously plenty to get to. This was Iowa's second win over a 1 seed in tournament history at that program. They beat 1 seed Syracuse back in 1980. Iowa fans know this, but first Sweet 16 appearance since 1999. I'm not at home. Otherwise, you'd be hearing Prince sing that right now on the board. I did invite Chris Hassel onto the pod. Hassel, if you are listening to this after the fact, congrats, buddy. He might be passed out on his front lawn right now.
I was thinking about Hassel about 20 minutes
did
before.
Not respond, nor does he need to. I said, do you want 3 minutes on the show? And he did not get back to me, but he had his moment. He had his window. It has passed. I'm so thrilled for him, without a doubt. By the way, Iowa represents the 6th Big Ten team into the Sweet 16. That is a conference record. Iowa was the worst seed to defeat a reigning national champion in the tournament since 11 seed Mason knocked out Carolina in 06. You heard me correct, people. Hit the 15-second rewind button and listen to that stat again. That was one of the more surprising ones I saw the entire day. Florida is the 2nd team in the tournament ever to win a game by 50 or more points and proceed to lose the next game. You ready for this? The only other team to do this was Kansas in 98. Both schools beat Prairie View A&M and then lost in the very next round. Chinyelu not having any kind of an impact in this game was obviously notable. How about Florida getting leveled on the boards by Iowa? Was the number 1 team in the country in rebound margin at plus 15. The 2 teams did not have a plus-minus on each other. They both wound up with the same number of boards in this game. And then how about this? Credit to our CBS Sports research team on this. Game-winning field goal in the final 5 seconds of an NCAA tournament game against a reigning national champion. It happened here tonight. It's only happened 3 times in history. Vic Rouse did it for Loyola Chicago, which beat Cincinnati in 63. That Loyola Chicago team went on to win a national title. Arkansas, U.S. Reed in 81 over Louisville. That's one of the most famous shots ever. It's the beyond half-court winner. There really is a case that that's the greatest buzzer beater in the history of the tournament over the reigning champs Louisville. And then here, Fulgaris against Florida. The other 2 happened as time expired, 4.5 on the clock here, but rare, special stuff. I also got to mention, and I think Josh has a photo here of Cooper Koch. In 99, when Iowa went to the Sweet 16, J.R. Koch was on that team. School's gone 27 years since. And how about the fact that they, in part, they fired Fran because it had kind of run its course. McCaffrey did a good job. He had a National Player of the Year in Garza, and he had multiple lottery picks, but they couldn't break through to a Sweet 16. And it's a lesson learned that if you can go get the right guy, you can turn the thing right instantly. And the fact that they are in the Sweet 16 in year 1 for him is just phenomenal. And on this roster is Cooper Koch. And in this game, he was a pivotal figure. Starting freshman guard, goes for 12 points, hits 4 threes, and then afterward, father and son embracing. If you're watching the YouTube here, this is the best, man. That is an awesome, awesome, awesome story. So, Iowa fans, I truly don't know the last time you led the pod. I'm reluctant to say that it might have been a McCaffrey meltdown. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but here you go. You got a coach that brought along players like Sturts and Banks, to name, among the most notable, but there's like 5 or 6 guys that were on this Drake team a season ago that are on this team now that came from the D2 ranks, and you're in the damn Sweet 16. It's awesome. Before we go on, I want to toss it back to you, Sam. You go. Anything else on the game period? McCollum, Golden, the floor is yours. Just any final touches on this before we keep it moving?
No, I'm good. Honestly, like I again would just note, I think Ben McCollum is probably one of, like, I'll be conservative. I think he's probably one of the 10 best coaches in the country from an X's and O's, like in-game perspective. A whole lot of other things go into building a program, recruiting, getting players, everything like that. I'm not sitting here saying he's a top 10 coach in the country overall, right? But X's and O's in game. You mentioned earlier the NCAA tournament number where he's 35-8. When they lost to Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament, I think that was the first time that he'd lost a conference tournament game in like 8 years or something crazy. Like these one game moments, these one game things that he has to prepare for, he's unbelievable at it.
And to that point, I will put a bow on it with this. If you really wanted to see Todd flex his jaw afterwards, it was when he was asked about, Ben made a comment about how he noticed something on film last night in Florida with like his 11th hour preparation that he could take advantage of. And someone asked Todd about it, and you could Todd had a physical reaction to that question. So it was it added to some of the theater from the game, but co-sign everything you guys said.
And this season started for Florida against Arizona, and they lose to Arizona in that, was it neutral site game, where Koa Pete just relentlessly short rolled against Alex Condon, who was playing drop coverage, and just absolutely obliterated them in Xavier Lee, Alex Condon coverages, right? It ends basically in the same way. I think that Iowa won that game in the first 27 minutes where they got up 12 or 14 points or something like that, where they did the same exact thing. They attacked the Condon Lee ball screen combination relentlessly. And, it's kind of, it's poetic in a bad way, I guess, for Florida, unfortunately.
Took the words right out of Gary Parrish's mouth for sure. Florida had a really, really good season. It's tough to repeat. It's so tough. And this is the reminder of how precious even I'm not even talking Final Fours or Elite Eights, Sweet 16 runs need to be cherished for that exact reason. Let's take a quick break. And then after that, where we're going next. St. John's over Kansas in a terrific second round game. First, quick word from our partners.
This is Gary Parrish. I have a confession. The confession is that sometimes, I hit an afternoon wall. Say, in between doing the Ion College basketball podcast and, walking to the broadcast center for a night in studio, I realized I probably didn't get enough rest. I need some caffeine. I want something sweet, but not like some big sugary drink. And that's why I'm obsessed with the new Fruity Rainbow shots from 5 Hour Energy. They seriously taste like a handful of classic rainbow candy, bright, juicy, and fun, but with a caffeine kick built in. It's like caffeine finally got that flavor glow up it always deserved. And with 17 flavors total in the 5 Hour Energy lineup, there is something for every mood. But this Fruity Rainbow launch is all about that bold, sweet, fruity chaos. What do I love most? It's the big flavor in that tiny portable 2-ounce bottle. I can throw it in my bag, keep one in my car, stash it at my desk, golf bag. It's no bulky can, no sticky wrappers, no sugar crash. It's a zero sugar treat that's totally sweet tooth approved, so it feels indulgent, but it's actually practical. If you're going to grab caffeine anyway, it might as well taste like candy. Get candy flavored chaos with Fruity Rainbow 5 Hour Energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon.
A little extra GP for the live Vecenie's there. I hope Vecenie.
I'm just glad. I'm glad I got to hear him. I'm glad I got to see his face. It's beautiful.
I am glad GP's in the studio so late, folks. Again, like it just can't out. He did one night on Friday. He's going to be on many of the next like 5 or 6 pods. Don't you worry.
Shout out to that guy on X who was just crushing Sam and I though. Like what are these two bozos? We're here for Norlander and Parrish. So shout out to that guy.
Hey, real ones know it's all good. GP and I are scheduled to be back together, reunited once again for our Tuesday podcast. St. John's wins in the East Region 67-65 over Kansas. Dylan Darling, the darling of this tournament, a game-winning layup as time expired. It is the first game-winning buzzer-beater shot of this tournament and the first since Crab 5. Shouts to Derek Queen, did it from Maryland over Colorado State. Also in the second round of last year's tournament. Darling set a record. He is the only player ever to hit a game-winning shot in the tournament and have that shot be his only points in a game. A mind-blowing stat. Johnny's dancing. First time Sweet 16 stage since 99. Play the Prince in your head. Seeking their first Final Four, of course, since 85. Patino now joins Lon Kruger and John Calipari as the only coaches to lead 4 schools to the Sweet 16. How about Rick Pitino having made a Sweet 16 in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s? Only one coach has done it in more decades. Trivia time? Who's the only coach to make it in 6 decades, Sweet 16? Either you can you get it first? Who is it?
Coach K.
No.
Oh, Adolph Rupp.
No.
Dean Smith.
No.
Just going with the long term, like
I'll
Jim
give you a
Boeheim was
hint.
there
Jim
for,
Boeheim, yeah.
like
Boeheim. Yeah, Boeheim is the answer. He did it in 6 decades with the Qs. At least he better have. I saw that in our research earlier, so hopefully I'm not inventing a stat. That's not true. Pitino is also the 3rd oldest coach to get to the Sweet 16 at 73. Kay and Boeheim were the only ones that were older. Let's get into the game and everything about it. Zuby Ejiofor goes for 18-9-4. St. John's hoists a season-high 35 3-pointers in this game. I was fascinated by the game plan. There were long stretches, guys, of this game where it was rough. Capital ROUGH rough, or if you prefer, RUFF rough, because it was not fun for stretches. But between Zuby, Hopkins, by the way, hit 6 triples, including a big one down the stretch. Johnny's wound up going 11 of 35. That equates to 31.4% from deep. Meanwhile, Peterson, 21 points, including the 2 freebies that actually put the game tied late when Kansas was closing the gap, and we really might have had something there. Council had himself a nice night, but Trey White with just 4. Badunga, some good, some not so good. Not enough help there. I throw it to Fink first. There's a lot to get to on this game as well. So take it whatever direction you want, winning side, losing side, final play, whatever it is, it's all you.
Quick point on Hopkins, because you mentioned like 6 threes for a guy who shot 31% from behind the arc on the year. That wasn't expected. And then the final one, which was by design, a flare, which is one of the toughest threes to take, and he knocked it down. Huge shot. I did think that Kansas, one of the common themes in these most memorable moments is special situation execution, when the game comes down to a play or two. And I thought that Kansas mismanaged the clock when they had 3 fouls to give, and it put them in a position where Marco Jackson was really alone on an island with Darling. Now he didn't have a foul to give. His toes opened up about 10 feet from the top of the key. Everyone was out of position to help, especially Melvin Council and Darren Peterson in the strong side of the floor. He just got beat, and I think there was too much time left on the clock because they mismanaged how they used those fouls to give, and ultimately that ended up costing them the game.
Look, I want to give St. John's a lot of credit here because I had some very real questions about how this team would generate offense in general throughout the course of the season. This is not a team that has an immense amount of shooting. I love the way that they utilize Zuby Ejiofor in order to create some space, with his versatility, his ability to step out and shoot. I think Dylan Darling has been outstanding for them. I know he had, only 2 points, the 2 points being the 2 most important points, but his passing, his decision-making, there were 2 guys in Joson Sanon and Ian Jackson that were certainly higher regarded transfers than Darling coming into the year. And Darling, I think, has proven pretty clearly to be the one who is most important to their success coming from Idaho State. I think my biggest takeaway, though, is Kansas a little bit here. And Norlander was giving me some shit early on because before we started this, that is, because I asked producer Josh, shout out producer Josh, for a stat. And it was purely how many points per possession did Kansas have in the first half versus in the second half. In the first half, they had 0.7 points per possession. In the second half, they had 1.3 points per possession. And the reason that I asked that was because the thing that I noticed most was that Kansas this season finally decided to put the ball in Darren Peterson's hands more consistently as the primary playmaker. I think throughout the year, Bill Self, and there are reasons for this, like from his injuries, from the fact that the spacing gets a little bit wonky if you're playing Melvin Council off of the ball, everything like that. I totally get it. But I think throughout the year, he has played Darren Peterson off of the ball and asked him to run off of actions, run off of pin downs, run off of flares, whatever you want to do, a little bit more than what I would have expected after his senior season in high school at Prolific Prep. I mean, Fink, you watched him probably more than I did. I thought that what made Darren the number one player in the country his senior year was the way that he improved as a ball screen decision maker, playmaker, passer, driver to the rim. And again, I think that the injury sapped some of the ability to drive. But I was pretty stunned throughout the course of the year that it took up until this second half for Bill just to say, all right, I'm taking my foot off the brake and I'm just giving this guy the ball and letting him rock. And I think that, a huge reason why Kansas came back in this game and why we're sitting here looking at them averaging 1.3 points per possession against an awesome St. John's defense in the back half of the year was that they let Darren rock with the ball in his hands. And I do wonder if Bill Self might end up kicking himself a little bit for not being willing to do that a little bit earlier.
Go ahead, Fink.
Yeah, I'll just speak to that real quick because I agree. I do suspect it had a lot to do with the injuries, though, because I think that was always the plan, to put the ball in his hands. And I won't go down the rabbit hole of all the ways in which we still know Darren Peterson isn't 100%. Like even today, there's a long list. The elevation, the start stop, all that stuff, and Sam and I could talk about that for 20 minutes. We won't. But the bottom line is he doesn't look to me like he's 100% even now. And so I think that the decision to move him off the ball was to try and, I assume it was rooted in trying to save him as much as they could. But to Sam's point, completely agree. Coming into the year, I envisioned him as an on-ball player, as I do moving forward as well.
Still some weird stuff down the stretch with Peterson. And yeah, I agree. I think we all got to agree that he is just not operating at 100%. That's just the reality of it. I think Bill Self went about as far as he could publicly and wanted to with just speaking what it was. Like I said this on HQ earlier. I don't know if Kansas as a program had a 10-day stretch where everyone was rowing in the same direction and everything was going the way they wanted to go, playing the way they wanted to play. And here you've got a KU program that has, again, failed to reach the Sweet 16. This is now 4 tournaments in a row. The program hasn't made it to the second weekend of the tournament. That hasn't happened since the early 1980s. And they won a title in 2022. Well-earned, hard-fought, good team, fun team. But that's the only tournament in the past 7 where Kansas got to at least the Sweet 16. It is lost to a worst seeded team in each of the last 6 tournaments it's played in. That's the big picture stuff. Down the stretch over the past month, this was a bad offensive team. In fact, now let me check this in real time here. So Kansas, 117.6 adjusted offensive efficiency, 59th in the country. He hasn't had a team. There's the biggest irony with everything here is that Self has not had a team that was this inefficient, frustrating to watch overall offensively. And I know the past 2 teams haven't been great either. They haven't. This team was right there with it, and you'd have to go back well over a decade at this point. Just weird. It was, and they It played tight near the end, and the win Friday, or I guess that was Friday. Was that really Friday? It was Friday, and I wasn't on the show Friday. That was a GP and Cobb special. But even after, like John Henson said on HQ, he's like, look at the team right now. He's like, I'm not going to overanalyze, but when teams win close games in the tournament and they're doing these whole like on-cam, post-game interviews, one guy's talking and everyone's having fun behind him, and everyone was just flat stone-faced on Kansas. Now, maybe they were a little shell-shocked with CBU, and I'm not saying all that carried over to the St. John's thing, but just a kind of a weird season for Kansas, and ultimately something of a letdown. And the weird stuff about the game was, I bring back up this box score real quick. St. John's earned the win. Thank God that that backcourt wasn't a factor. We've had like 5 instances in the tournament where officials are missing like blatant stuff. Can we get rid of this for the rest of the like some of the stuff isn't mattering in the ultimate verdict of the game, but still, like that would have been a thing had Kansas won, and it wasn't a backcourt. The ball got deflected. I'm digressing here. Let's see. Kansas was better from the foul line. It was better from 3-point range. It was better from 2-point range. So it was better field goal wise. It had more boards. Jeez, man. And then turnovers. That's where it is. 8-16. So Johnny said 8 turnovers. Kansas had 16. That kind of did them in. Kansas had 9 blocks in the game to St. John's 8. Just an ugly game that turned into a riveting game, and then Darling with the play at the end and saving them after KU went on, I think, guys, a 23-9 run and really had the game flipping in one particular direction. We do have Patino on Darling and the winner. Josh, let's hear this real quick, because this was maybe there's been a lot of good quotes. Maybe this was the best quote of the entire weekend.
Here's the amazing thing and the funniest thing I've ever been involved with. So we're going to run a play, but they got fouls to give, and Bells comes up to me and says, run power, which is a high back screen pick and roll. So I walk away. I said, okay, power. I walk away and said, wait a second. He hasn't scored a bucket, and he wants to run a play for himself. And I'm thinking as I'm walking, I said, but he's Bells. And not only did he do it, he went with his right hand. So I'm real proud of him, because to want the ball when you haven't made a shot is unbelievable. So both of these guys had a major impact in us winning tonight. I'm so happy for St. John's and the fans. We had great fans out here. And we get to go to D.C., and I'm just so jubilant, so happy for the fellas. We've taken it another step now, so it's just awesome. Proud of our guys, and now it's just starting. The fun's just starting.
That's a really good quote. Patino was a gangster, Jay Wright level, non-reaction when the game was won. Great stat here from St. John's. In the first 117 seasons of St. John's, the team won 30 games twice, and they've done that and matched in the past 2 years under Patino. We'll have more on St. John's, obviously, heading into later in the week. One more thing for you guys here. Josh, let's play the clip from Self post-game. Let's just talk Self real quick. He was asked about his future, and here's what he said.
Well, I haven't really gone through much on the court. You know, I've gone through some stuff off the court, so I'll get back and get with family and visit and see what's going on. I love what I do. You know, I need to be able to do it where I'm feeling good and healthy to do it, fairly well. So I'll get back home and it'll all be discussed.
Fink, you go first.
It's the first time we've ever heard him acknowledge that this future was at all uncertain. So I think that's something. You know, we'll see what happens, but it's the first time, he's ever said anything. It's usually like, yeah, I feel great, I'm ready to go. That was a different answer. I think that's notable. I don't want to, I don't want to speculate on what else it could mean, but I do know it's the first time he's said anything that sounded that uncertain before.
Well, and, I want Bill Self around for as long as possible. College basketball is better when Bill Self is involved. Like, despite the fact that I just laid some, minor criticism of what I wanted to see from them this year, I still think that Bill Self is one of the best coaches in the entire country, undeniably. So it would be terrible if he decides to leave. I guess where I would pivot this to, Matt, is obviously he brings Jacques Vaughn back to the staff recently. Jacques Vaughn is a former NBA coach. I wasn't really a fan of what Jacques Vaughn did when he was in the NBA, if I'm being completely honest, from a scheme perspective, from a lot of different perspectives. I mean, you're the coaching newsbreaker, certainly among the three of us here. What are your thoughts on what that would look like if something like this was to happen?
All right, we can be relatively quick on this because we still have a lot to go. And Monday is going to be a noisy day on the carousel. Just get ready. Monday and into Tuesday.
I think Matt just said pass. Yeah.
There's just a lot more coming. Like there's a lot that's going to be happening over the next 48 hours. Some of the stuff is kind of out there and some of it isn't. But be ready for that. It will be a busy day on Monday for sure. So Self was on the podcast and I asked him if he was going to coach not just like next year, but in the next couple of years. And he gave a similar answer to what you heard. But if you actually go back and listen to what Self said on this podcast versus what he just said there after the game, keep in mind, he just got knocked out of the tournament. Okay. And it's a very emotional thing in the moment there. It's a different tone. I will say that there has been an increase in speculation over the past 2 to 3 weeks in the industry about whether or not this would wind up being the last season for Bill Self. I don't know if it will be. I would lean more no than yes at this point, but who the heck knows? He has had to deal with the heart stuff on multiple occasions, obviously, but he has said he has felt better than he has felt in a long time. I hope he sticks around. My read on the entire situation is Jacques Vaughn would obviously be involved in that coaching search, but I am not of the impression that he would be the overwhelming front runner to be the next coach at Kansas as things stand right now. As always, sit and wait and see, and we'll wait on a timeline with all of that. The fact that this is now kind of lingering out there in the air also makes it interesting in that most people expect Hubert Davis to not be the coach at North Carolina anymore. And so now you've got the situation where 2 of the 4 best jobs in college basketball could open in relatively close proximity to each other. But if that does happen, like Carolina's train is, 3, 4, 5, 6 metaphorical hours ahead of the Kansas one, if that even happens. So we'll see on that. GP and I will talk on a lot of coaching stuff eventually at some point. The Self stuff, though, obviously ramps up a lot all the more because of how prestigious that job is. Let's keep it moving. We have more to do. No shot. We're getting this done in under an hour. We have another break, but I'm told for our viewing audience, we will not see Gary Parrish right now. Josh, fire it away.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
It is time for that weekend whip around. Let's go and talk about everything else that happened on Sunday. We'll start in the Midwest, where second-seeded Iowa State disposed of number 7 Kentucky, 82-63. Kentucky got down early. Iowa State got down early. Got down 10 in the first half. No Joshua Jefferson in this game. But Taman Lipsey goes off, 26 points, 10 assists, 5 steals. Has a career high in scoring, tied his career high in assists, and played really, really well. Kentucky went on a drought to end the first half. Iowa State was leading at the half despite shooting less than 30% from the field, 20% from 3, and it was not looking good for Kentucky then and there. And then we saw what happened in the second half. They dropped 51 points. They were plus 18 on Kentucky. They shot 63.3% from the field overall and hit half of their 3-point shots. Congrats to TJ Otzelberger. Congrats, Iowa State fans, Iowa fans, everyone in the state of Iowa. Celebrate. You got plenty of reason to. Otz has brought this program to 3 Sweet 16s in 5 seasons. The program overall only has 7 Sweet 16s to its name. Extremely impressive. Sam, I go to you first. Takeaways on the game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a ton, to be honest. Like, I just felt like they totally suffocated Kentucky defensively, especially in that second half. I mean, I think they scored maybe a couple more points in the second half than they did in the first, but it just felt like they were like a cobra constricting every single aspect of what Kentucky wanted to do on offense. And then shout out to Taman Lipsey. I've really loved Lipsey, throughout the last couple of years, particularly of his college career. Unbelievable distributor, unbelievable playmaker for his teammates. Obviously doesn't shoot it wildly well from three, but steps up and drills 3 of 6 from three in this game. Has long been one of the best perimeter point of attack defenders that you'll find in the country, and ends up with 5 steals in this game against a team in Kentucky that didn't really have a great point guard option this season. I don't think that you can ignore the fact that Lipsy had 5 steals against this Kentucky team particularly.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. And again, we've talked a lot about this, like with whatever the number was, reportedly $22 million that Kentucky spent on their roster to only bring in one true point guard on that roster, I think is just was the fatal flaw as well. You could talk about whether or not they should invest in someone like Jaden Quains, who's got the ACL, but the lack of redundancy at the point guard position, I thought was really inexcusable from a roster construction standpoint. Jalen Lowe gets hurt and you basically have no point guards, and against an Iowa State defense that prides themselves on being able to turn you over, this was not a good matchup for them. That's the way it played out. And then in addition to Lipsy being great, Momcilovic was really good too. 20 points, 6 of 12 shooting, 4 of 9 from behind the 3-point line. And you saw a little bit of like that JV mini Dirk Nowitzki stuff that he was actually known for in high school. I don't think many people realize that, like, those one-legged step backs, that was kind of like that was his game back in the day. So kind of give him credit without Joshua Jefferson, but this was a bad matchup for Kentucky, and it showed.
Let's have the Mark Pope discussion relatively quick here. This was tied for the largest blown lead of Kentucky's season. They actually got up by as many as 12. They did the same thing against A&M earlier this month. Kentucky has failed. How about this one? Kentucky has failed to reach the Elite Eight. This is obviously on Pope. This goes back to Cal. Has not made the Elite Eight 6 straight seasons. That's the longest stretch in the history of the program. That just speaks to the power of Kentucky basketball. This was tied for the second largest loss in the history of the school, 19. So it's 19. It's not 29. It's not 32, but still, it's a big number, and had 20 turnovers in this game. Kentucky hadn't turned the ball over that many times in the game since December of 20, the COVID year. That team was awful. They did it against Georgia Tech. The Ion College Basketball Podcast Twitter account put out a poll that asked users to grade Mark Pope as a coach through 2 seasons at Kentucky, not just this season. And in real time right now, I'm going to read you the results of this, and then Fink, you can go first. I want an exact grade. You can use a plus or minus if you so choose. The leading vote, 50%, is anywhere in the C, C plus, C, or C minus. Number 2 is D plus or worse. Kentucky fans vary online. I don't think you can make that case. Third place is B or B minus, and then just 3.8% of the vote was the A to B plus range. Grade Mark Pope on the whole through 2 seasons, Fink.
I think, maybe B minus for me, but my biggest concern is roster construction. Mark Pope, the coach, I think that's been fine. We could debate the nuances of that, but I think that his rosters have been flawed, and to have 13 bodies and 1 point guard, and, maybe your most, expensive player be someone who wasn't able to play all year long. There's been a lot of talk about general managers. I think some of that is like, I'm not sure that when people talk about that, they understand the variances in what like GMs do. It's a title that is common and a role that can vastly change, but it's clear to me that they, could use some help with roster construction. And if and when that happens, I think we'll be able to better assess the coach that is in charge of that talent. But he just had a flawed roster this year.
Sam, grade for Pope.
Yeah, and in that vein, so I would say like a C or something like that.
Okay.
Like I think right around where the consensus was. To Fink's point on a general manager or something, it's been rumored, at the very least reported, I think in some places, that Keegan Brown, the video coordinator of the Milwaukee Herd, who was with BYU during Mark Pope's time, maybe joining Kentucky in some sort of quote unquote front office role. To Fink's point again, general manager jobs are so different around the country. Some of them are fundraisers. Some of them are genuine roster builders. Some of them are, agents, like Jim Tanner at UNC is like an agency person who's a relationships person, right? So these things vary across the board. What I would say is that Keegan Brown is a basketball person, so I would imagine he would be involved in helping to build the roster at the very least. That's the key to me. I have no idea how they ended up with this roster, to be honest with you. When I talk to teams across the country right now about this upcoming offseason, people will bring up Kentucky as an example of what not to do right now from a roster construction perspective in a lot of different ways. Like, first and foremost, they will say that the players that they brought in didn't really necessarily match the scheme that Mark Pope wants to run. That's a huge portion of going to get really good players. You got to make sure they fit what you want to do. Second, they will bring up spending in the middle class of player, right? Spending a very large number to go get Denzel Aberdeen, who was a bench player at Florida on their national title year, going to get Diubate from Alabama, going to get a number of these players that are, somewhere between the 4th and 7th best player on a Kentucky roster in all likelihood. Spending large numbers to go get them, that is. I think that what we see at the end of the day in this offseason is probably teams start paying a premium for the elite level players that end up transferring and that are trying to be retained by their rosters as well. And that middle class ends up not being quite as aggressively pursued in the same way due to, Kentucky as an example this season, not necessarily being able to bring it.
Pope has, in the first 2 seasons, I'm a little more kind on the grade than you guys. I'd go B, maybe B minus. 3 seed last year, Sweet 16, 24 wins. 7 seed this year, 22 wins. 1 tournament games in both. It's Kentucky. The standard is higher. They paid more for their roster than anyone in the country. I get that. See what we do in year 3. Some Kentucky fans are going to want to put him on the hot seat. This is a purely objective standpoint. And at Kentucky fans, I get you. Like, you're so invested, and that's what makes that fan base incredible. When you say a coach is on the hot seat entering a season, to me, that definition means if this coach does not make the NCAA tournament, he's out. Personally, even with the athletic director change, if you tell me a year from now Pope has not made the tournament, it's going to be scorching hot. I would stop short right here, right now, of saying they would fire him after year 3. As always, these things sometimes take on very interesting perspectives and temperatures when that happened. But I cannot imagine them firing him if he didn't make the tournament next year after year 3 as an alum and with multiple NCAA tournament wins on his resume in year 1 and year 2. Yeah.
Matt, it would be insane if they don't fire him if they miss the NCAA tournament. Really? Like, you're Kentucky, you have all the money in the world, and I think, like, if you start to read between the lines of kind of what he was saying a little bit, and I've seen a couple of little things, I don't know that they're going to have this much money this summer necessarily.
Right. You would think they would.
But yeah, but at the same token, man, like, you're Kentucky. If you miss the NCAA tournament after spending $22 million or whatever the number was, and you end up failing to get past the round of 32, and frankly, this season was not enjoyable for Kentucky fans. I don't think they didn't play an enjoyable brand of basketball. It seemed like the fans didn't enjoy really watching the team, frankly. Honestly, when I listened to Mark Pope, like in press conferences and stuff, like I've got questions. I'm just going to say, like,
it's totally fair. It's totally fair. I tend to be a little more lenient on this stuff. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen. I would lean that it wouldn't.
I think he 10 seconds. I think he would tell you that is unacceptable at Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
I think he would say missing the tournament is unacceptable. I think he would hold himself to a higher standard.
I think the price tag, this is a classic example of a number gets out. Pope has yet to deny the $22 million, by the way. He has never said that is not true. He has never said it, and he could have easily said it. So that tells you all we need to know. But he has had his team wearing home whites with a Sweet 16 and with wins in both seasons. So it could be much worse if you're Kentucky. But I understand the standard there. We see what happens next. Let's keep it moving. And sorry, Kentucky fans, I'm about to talk Tennessee. Tennessee beats Virginia 79-72 in the Midwest region. Rick Barnes has taken the Vols to 4 consecutive Sweet 16s. Before he got there, they had never gone to more than 2 in a row. Good job out of him. This was a quality game. Tennessee was able to hold on to the rope throughout the entirety of it. That was quite impressive overall. And, to me, one of the one of the things about this Tennessee team that I've kind of been up on, been down on. I think it's impressive that they were able to get here. They outlive seed expectation. Amen's been solid. I'm still not as high on him as a lot of folks, and we do not need to dive into draft talk right now. Gillespie for me has always been the guy. He was that again. Bishop Boswell is someone that I keep coming back to with this Tennessee team as a guy who just feels so critical to them unlocking their potential and being a spoiler. In this game in particular, he had 13 points, 9 assists. He's a 6'4" hoss, only 3 boards, but I love what he does. And I think Estrella's also coming along pretty well. Virginia ends the season 30-6, year 1 under Ryan Odom. Testa Ritter had himself a nice game. They had some botched plays, some missed shots. The Jakari White 3 from the corner attempt, I thought that was going to be online. Wasn't close. They don't get it done. That's all for me on this game, but I do want to hear from both of you guys. Fink, you go first.
Jacoby Gillespie is way better than the average fan realizes. He's one of the best point guards in college basketball. And I will admit, I didn't have a full appreciation for it until I saw him live. And I was like, oh no, like, to your point about Nate and the draft stuff, like, yeah, whatever that is, but Jacoby's the guy. And I think as the year's gone on, they've diversified their attack. They had 5 guys in double figures today. I thought that was critical. Bought into the defensive identity of Rick Barnes as well. So that's the good. The bad is that Virginia put themselves in a position to win the game. And then, they just got tight, man. 12 missed layups in the game, 2 in the last couple of minutes, couple of air balls, couple of shot clock violations, turnovers. It was, you hope these games, somebody wins it. I think, unfortunately, today, Virginia just lost it in the last couple of minutes. That there were a lot of mistakes down the stretch.
Jakari White is a 43% three-point shooter who got a wide open corner 3. Nobody within 8 feet of him, probably, and he airballed it. My jaw was on the floor when that, I couldn't believe it when that happened. And yeah, I feel for Jakari White in such a real way. On the Tennessee side, I'm so glad that Fink brought up Jacoby Gillespie. I think he's undeniably the player in the country that might not be respected enough by fans. The way that he runs that team, the way that he can score, he can distribute, he takes on whatever hat Tennessee needs from him on a night-to-night basis. Bishop Boswell, again, Norlander, you're on it, I think. His defensive ability, I think, is really high level. The passing really stood out tonight, 9 assists with no turnovers. And I will shout out Felix Okpara as well on the interior, 4 blocks. He's a terrific defender. Unfortunately, my darling Ohio State Buckeyes could not hold on to him. But I really have enjoyed the way this Tennessee team, with all of its depth, with everything it has, is just kind of figured out how to win games under Rick Barnes again.
Vols fans, we're going to talk plenty about your team for the rest of the week here, but we are getting late, and I got a few more games to mention, but I'll give you one more nugget if you want it. How about this? 50 points, 15-plus assists, entering the Sweet 16 since 1985. 3 players have done it. Billy Donovan in 87, they made the Final Four. Kemba Walker in 2011, they won the title. Jacoby Gillespie. Good stuff there. Virginia, arrow's going in the right direction. Didn't live up to C's expectation here, but got it done. Ryan Odom's got that moving, and he's a really smart coach, and I think they got one for the long haul there. Let's talk UConn over UCLA out in the East, 73-57. Cronin got a T. I don't think it was a legit T. Alex Caravan. How about Alex Caravan in game 147, I believe, getting his career high at 27 in this one there. No Tyler Bilodeau for UCLA, quite clearly a major factor there. We did see Stewart and Demery play off the bench. Demery played 22 minutes. They were able to contain Dent just a little bit. This was a competitive game for about the first 65% of it. And hello, UConn, back where you belong, into the second weekend at minimum for the 3rd time in a 4-year span. The Huskies, by the way, have never lost to a 7 seed in their program's history. Dan Hurley gets it done. Caravan and then Reed. Reed combined for what? 41 points and 40 boards, or I might have those numbers flipped on the inverse. The last time a player had at least 40 points and 40 rebounds in the first 2 games of a tournament was Duncan in 97 with Wake Forest. So they are feeling quite good about themselves. And all the more impressive for UConn, they did this. Solo ball was a non-factor and has not been good in the first 2 games. That cannot happen over the next 2 games. Otherwise, UConn will not get out of that East regional semi or final. But Sam, you're up. UConn.
Yeah.
Into the Sweet 16. What's your prognosis here as they go two games without too much resistance?
Just a few notes here. So first and foremost, I think that having watched Alex Caravan probably from the time that he was in 8th grade in the Northeast, right, in New England, Alex Caravan was a quiet kid, right? He was a kid that was just very low key. He's a super, super smart kid. I think he's like an accounting major who's like working on his master's or has his master's by now. Awesome human being, awesome kid. Was very, very quiet. Was like not a guy that was all that demonstrative as a leader coming into this season. I think the thing that has stood out most to me with Alex Caravan is how he's taken on that leadership role. He's taken on that emotional bellwether almost for UConn when I watch them. He's popping the jersey. He's screaming at the fans. He's taking on that responsibility that Dan Hurley loves to get the fans engaged in the game. I think it's a huge part of what their success has been Alex Caravan's step into that leadership role after couple of seasons where he just wasn't that guy. So, the 27 points are great. The 22 that he had against Furman, amazing. The leadership is what really stands out to me with Alex Caravan.
To that point, the timing of the points were huge because UConn trailed for the majority of the first half until he really got it going. It was the threes. It was also some of his, he's really good at attacking closeouts and straight lines. He got a tough offensive putback. And contextually, it's important too, because Solo and Braylon couldn't make a shot in the first half. Silas didn't start. UCLA was sending the second defender at Terrace before the catch because he's so good at sealing the score before. That's like UConn's. They don't usually throw it to him and say, let him go to work. They do occasionally, but their best offense for him is when they draw something up to get him a catch and finish angle based on the right seal. UCLA took that away. So Alex really needed to step up, and he did. Also have to shout out Jaden Ross. Jaden Ross was huge, particularly at that same point in the first half. He made a couple of big, big threes, and he also upgrades the team defensively because with Solo, it's not just the fact that he's in a little bit of a shooting slump. It's that, when he hurts you defensively as well, it's double trouble. I do think his wrist hasn't been right all year long, but Jaden Ross was huge in this one. I do share your sentiment though, Matt. Like they've got to get Solo and Braylon for that matter. He picked it up a little bit in the second half, but those guys have got to make shots for them to keep marching on here.
We got a quick clip on Cronin. And again, my internet is slow, so I think this is going to play, and I'm not even going to hear it by the time it's done. Nevertheless, he was asked something in the post-game, all transparency, or I was on the TV desk doing segments, so I have not even heard this yet. Josh, go ahead and play it. The question and the answer from Cronin after the loss.
Like anything needs to change with the approach, roster construction, or the way you're...
Yeah, I have right now I'm worried about tonight, consoling the guys.
We'll stay here in the front row.
I'd like about $5 more million. There's my answer.
I actually did hear that in real time. At least he was honest there. No slandering of the airline situation from the NCAA this season. That was a quote last year that might have brought me to tears on the podcast. Cronin's not wrong about that. He had money to play with, but everyone wants $5 more million. UCLA heads on home. Let's keep it moving. Arizona gets it done over Utah State to the tune of 78-66 out there in the West. Utah State gave them a good fight. They did, but it was asking just a little bit too much, and speaks to Arizona's capabilities defensively. When you look at Falslev and Collins, they combined for 20 points, and they made, 7 shots and 26 attempts, something like that, 25 attempts. Good job, Arizona, getting it done. Star of the game, I guess Jaden Bradley, but Krivas also was really, it's just Arizona. Like, pick your poison. Pete had some moments. Bradley was good. Karchenkov was good defensively. Burries had a huge 3 down the stretch there. Arizona moving on to the regional semis. I'll be seeing them in person, so plenty more from the Wildcats on me. This is now a 4th trip in 5 seasons to the Sweet 16 for Zona under Lloyd. Here's a nugget for you. The only other coach ever to make a Sweet 16 or better in 4 of his first 5 D1 seasons as a head coach is Steve Lavin. How about that? Big time night on the boards for Arizona. Sam, thoughts on the game real quick?
Yeah, like you said, they come in waves at the end of the day. If it's not Ivan Karchenkov, it's Mo Krivas. If it's not Braden Burries, it's Koa Pete, right? They have the deepest roster 1 through 7 in the entire country. And that's why they're my title pick. They can go big, they can go small. They have all the flexibility in the world. I've loved watching Braden Burries step up into a more primary role, and they have the ultimate closer in Jaden Bradley. So, I think this team's just going to be exceptionally difficult to beat. And I think that what makes them different, because that will be the question now moving forward for Arizona fans and for people across the country, is what makes this different than the past where Tommy Lloyd has not been able to get to the Final Four. I think that it's the versatility, the different ways that they can beat you on a different night, depending on what the matchup is that they're facing.
Arizona had a 50% offensive rebounding rate tonight. They got 16 of 32 possible offensive rebounds. They shot 27 of 39 from the free throw line. Conversely, Utah got there 11 times. That was the game. That math is unbeatable. And their starting five, everybody contributed. Braden Burry, 16 and 9, Mo Krivas, 11 and 14, Koa Pete, 14 and 10, and Jaden Bradley, to Sam's point, was cold early, really got it going late. I think it's as simple as that.
And Jared Calhoun, barring a stunner, has coached his last game there. Expected to be the guy next up at Cincinnati. I doubt we get through Monday without that becoming a thing. So consider that a story before it's an actual story. Good on him. Really good coach. That's a homecoming. And Utah State now has to go find the next really good coach to run its program. Alabama beat Texas Tech 90-65. Hand up. We were running live for a bit here on HQ. This game was a stinker. I just did not have eyes on this game for the majority of the evening. I didn't need to. 19 made threes. Alabama at a cool 1.30 PPP here. Right cell with 24 points. Aiden Sherrill had himself a pretty solid night, I guess. I saw a couple tweets on him. He was apparently impressive. All I know is this game got out of hand early, and Texas Tech, unfortunately, its season comes to an end at 23-11. No Toppin. Anderson was held to 7 points here. I got almost nothing for you on this game just because of all the stuff I was doing on the TV desk. Bama has made 31 threes in the tournament. They're one shy of the 90 Loyola Marymount team for the most through the first two rounds of a tournament with 32. And oh, by the way, Nate Oates has this team in the Sweet 16 for a 4th straight year, just like Barnes and Tennessee. That is a school record. He also has more tournament wins than any coach in program history. By winning tonight, he passed the tie with Wimp Sanderson. Sam, you up.
Well, Matt, you might not have a lot on this game, but I have a trivia time.
Oh, boy, I couldn't be less ready. Go ahead.
In the last 7 games of the year prior to this game, so the games without JT Toppin, Texas Tech allowed 116.5 points per 100 possessions. What would that have ranked nationally this season?
You go first, Fink.
I was just saying, I hate it. I'm so glad I don't have to answer these questions on Sam's pod. I got no clue. 250th.
I will say, I'm gonna say that's a cool 274.
306th is where that would rank, and it's only going to go down from here. So they just never figured out a way to defend without JT Toppin. Just from a depth perspective, this team didn't have a crazy amount of it once Toppin was gone. The fact that they got through Akron and got to the round of 32 without Toppin, I think was kind of a win at the end of the day. So kudos to Grant McCaslin, kudos to that entire staff, and certainly Christian Anderson for the incredible year he had. It's just that ultimately they didn't have the juice at the end.
Anderson off to the NBA. Would you agree?
Yes.
There are some oil barons in West Texas that I refuse to doubt in races that may involve copious amounts of cash. I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
Correct. Shout out Paramount Plus and shout out Landman. We all know Billy Bob's going to go in there and offer Christian Anderson God knows what amount of money. That comes from no inside information. I'm not sitting here saying that he has some sort of crazy offer on the table. I would imagine he does, but he's one of them where I look at it in a guard-heavy draft and I go, probably leaves, but you never know.
Okay, fair enough. Last game was the first tip of the day. Purdue beats Miami, gets it done out in the West, 79-69. Purdue was got a win here despite it was their first tournament win when trailing at halftime since 2010. It had been that long since they had overcome a halftime deficit. They have now made the Sweet 16 for the 7th time in the past 9 tournaments. This was Painter's 500th win at Purdue as the head coach. Good on him. Braden Smith, 12 points, 8 assists, had 8 turnovers. Fletcher Loyer came to play. He was hot early, and he had himself a night. Only 1 missed shot in total, going for 24, his most ever in a tournament game. CJ Cox left the game with what was described as a hyperextended knee. He says he should be good for the game against Texas in the regional semis out there in San Jose. We'll see on that. But Purdue's offense is absolutely humming, folks. They have shot at least 50% from the field, 50% from 3, and 95% from the foul line in the NCAA tournament in this game. And that matched 2003 Marquette. It matched 2002 UConn and 1996 Syracuse to do that in a single game. Big time stuff there. Fink, any quick thoughts on either side of it? Obviously a good year for Jay Lucas in year 1, a 19-win turnaround at the U.
Yeah, Jay was phenomenal, had a terrific year. I will say this, I did not think Braden Smith played well. He's going to need to be better. 3 of 12 from the floor, 8 turnovers, visibly frustrated. I thought that was masked by the shot making of Cox and Loyer. And I also think, just a quick note here, Trey Kaufman-Renn had 19 and 9, and man, is that guy a good screener. I know I'm getting into the weeds here, but normally you get a guy who like hits people when he screens and he's slow to roll. This guy hits people and he's quick to roll. So he gets separation. He always gives you a numerical advantage. Then he's got that like short floater game too. So even though he can't stretch the floor because he's not a shooter, he always, he gets you in a 4-on-3 or a 2-on-1 to play out of the short roll or whatever the case may be. But Braden Smith is going to need to be better, particularly if we talk about a matchup with Arizona next weekend.
Yeah, I mean, look, watched a little bit of this game. Not going to sit here and say
this was when Sam was sleeping in Australia, by the way.
Started at 3:15 a.m. Yes. Watched a little bit of it when I got
I'm
up.
now an hour away from 3:15 a.m., by the way.
My goodness. I just want to call out Shelton Henderson. I really love the way he closed the year at Miami as well. 18 points, 9 of 10 from the field, or 9 of 11 from the field today. 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Monster defender, just super physical, super strong.
Is he off to the league, or is he going to come back?
I think probably comes back because he really can't shoot.
Okay,
he's
and
in the
plus
Billy
take
Richmond
advantage
zone.
of a softer draft. Yeah, maybe pop. That's what I thought, but you guys know better than me. So.
Yeah, terrific player, but I think probably goes back for one more year. In Purdue, I mean, hey, they've won, 6 games in a row now, including the Big Ten tournament, and they are rolling.
And won by an average of 14.5 points, Sam, by the way. Sorry to chop into you there. Yeah, a couple of segments, then we'll get out of here. Boy, it is late, Fink. I appreciate you staying up late. Sam, you're getting ready for dinner time. You're doing just fine. Now we're going to talk about tonight's most impactful performance in the same-day delivery of the game, brought to you by Shipt, your go-to grocery delivery destination for anything you may need for game day. My most impactful performance is going to be Tamin Lipsey. Again, 26 points, 8 of 15 from the field, 10 assists, 5 steals, career high in points. He had only had 11 points in the previous 2 games. Now, with no Joshua Jefferson in that spot for Iowa State, they get down early. Big-time performance out of him. He's the 3rd player with at least 25 points, 10 assists, and 5 steals in a tournament game since assists became an official statistic back in '86. Anderson Hunt for UNLV did it. 2023, Marquise Noel at the Garden. I was there. He did it as well, and he was outstanding. He was the first player to get at least 25 and 10 against Kentucky in a tournament game since Dwayne Wade did it in the famous triple-double in the 03 tournament. I go Lipsey. You guys agree, or you want to toss in another quick name real quick?
Caravan's a honorable mention.
Yeah, that's fair. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, Lipsey and Caravan were the 2 that I really felt like brought it today. I think Lipsey, at the end of the day, is probably the one that was the right call. So I'll agree with you, Matt. How about that?
Okay, there we go.
Ruben Chignello just missed.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Sweet 16 look ahead. So GP and I are going to get into this, but let's just our first initial thoughts on what we've got here. By conference, here's your rundown. Big Ten has 6. That's a league record, by the way. SEC has 4. Big 12 has 3. Big East has 2. ACC down to just 1 with Duke. We have 9 teams in this year's Sweet 16 that were in last year's Sweet 16. That ties 2003 for the most year-over-year repeats for a Sweet 16. And also, for the second consecutive year, we have no mid-majors in the Sweet 16. Every team that is represented comes from a power conference. That has never happened before in the history of the tournament. If you're curious on the teams that are back that were in this spot a year ago, Bama, Zona, Arkansas, Duke, Houston, Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, and Tennessee all made last year's Sweet 16 and this year's Sweet 16. Nebraska is the only school that's involved that has never been in the Sweet 16. Of course, it had never won a tournament game until just a couple of nights ago. Meantime, we've got St. John's and Iowa back in here on this stage for the first time in 27 years. Really, really fun stuff. Fink, floor is yours first. Your impressions on the Sweet 16 and the 2 or 3 things, take it in any direction you want, that you are most intrigued by with what's on the table with the regional semis.
I said this last night on this show, but I'm going to double down. I love the way the first week went. We had enough upsets to make it interesting, but we got the big boys moving on to the second week. And I think that's what makes it exciting, when you can have enough of Cinderella to kind of, scratch that itch, but then you get the matchups you really want, and heading into Indianapolis as a result. Particularly intriguing to me is Duke, St. John's. That's the one that I'm looking forward to, although I will also say that Houston, Illinois is a close second to me. Those are going to be those are both Final Four caliber games in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I would say the second and third days of the NCAA tournament this year were fine by tournament standards, right? I really enjoyed the first day. I really enjoyed today. I thought today was an outstanding day of basketball.
Day 3 had the best game of the tournament, though. Vandy Nebraska's been the best game, but they were surrounded by some lesser stuff. But I hear you.
Yeah, and the game I'm most looking forward to right now is Arizona Arkansas, because if there is one player that I think can deal with what Arizona is going to present to him defensively, I want to see what Darius Acuff can do, because Arizona is going to take away the rim, and they have some monster perimeter defenders in Ivan Karchenkov and Jaden Bradley that both can take on the Acuff matchup. But Acuff is a genuine 3-level scorer. He is somebody who can find shots in a variety of different ways, both on and off the ball, in ball screens, or coming off of any sort of pin down. I'm genuinely fascinated to see how Darius Acuff is able to play against that Arizona defensive unit, against Mount Crevis, against some of the bodies that Arizona is going to be able to throw at him defensively.
I can't wait for that game. I have some region envy in that I booked my flights and hotels. I was asked to cover the West Regional like 6 weeks ago. I said yes, but the East Regional, and we'll talk about this later in the week. That might be the most loaded regional in a decade or more when you consider the teams, the coaches, the players, the storylines, the overall appeal. But we got good stuff across the board. I mean, corn on corn in the Iowa, Nebraska, and Houston. You got 3 Big Ten teams going to Houston in Houston's backyard. Ticket situation there is going to be insane. There's a lot of wonderful stuff here. Well, we might power rank the Sweet 16 matchups on Tuesday, Josh. Let's try and make that happen. But there's a lot of tasty stuff. First weekend, was it the best one ever? No, far from the worst. We didn't have a lot of Cinderella action, but we got some shockers. We got High Point doing what it did. We had Iowa beating Florida, which is the exact kind of result. Like, no one was talking about that as a possibility going into this tournament. No one. Fornelli, is trying to strut his stuff. An Illinois fan, by the way, speaking down on Florida and backing up his beloved Hawkeyes. He's always been a closeted Hawkeyes fan and has long loved Iowa more than Illinois, but he prefers that not to be public information. Sorry, Fornelli. They make the Sweet 16. All bets are off. We'll see if we can get Fornelli on the pod before the end of this tournament, by the way. But this Sweet 16 is looking mighty, mighty tasty. Again, we'll preview more of that later on this week. That was the same day delivery of the game, brought to you by Shipt. You can use your Shipt to order all your faves on the same day, from your favorite snacks to theme favorite decorations. They have it covered. Download the app or order now at shipt.com. That's SHIPT.com. Last thing, and then we're getting out of here. Fink, I asked you to rank the top 10 players left in the tournament, not as NBA prospects. These are college players. I know you did it. I haven't seen the list. Reel it off in real time. And then, Sam, give me your biggest gripe on who's not on the list that should be and which player you would have higher or lower than where Fink has him. Go.
All right. Number 1, Cam Boozer. Number 2, Darius Acuff. Number 3, Braden Smith. Number 4, Yaxa Lundeborg. Number 5, Jeremy Fears. Number 6, Zuby. I'm apparently not an All-American. Ejiofor. Number 7, LeBaron Philon. Number 8, Bennett Sturts. Number 9, Ade Mara. Number 10, Kingston Flemings in a 4-way tie.
Okay, who's the best player not on that list, Sam?
I mean, the immediate thing that I notice is nobody from Arizona, but like I don't know that I can argue that. Like they might have 5 guys from 11 to 25 is kind of the thing. That was just my immediate off the cuff answer is like it feels strange not to have anybody from Arizona. The way Alex Caravan is playing right now, I get it that it might not be the sexiest name in the world to bring up. The way he is playing right now, he has been outstanding, and he does not want to go home. It feels like when you watch them play. So that might be my pick of the guy.
Was Fears on the list?
Yeah, he was 6. He was also in the top 10 before. This was a second iteration of a list we did on HQ to start the week when the field began.
Was Wagler on the list?
He was not.
Okay. Was Gillespie on the list?
Yeah, that's a good name.
That's
Jefferson.
A good name.
Jefferson, you can have not on the list now because of his health status.
He's not playing.
Do we think he'll play in the second weekend? I think he will.
That looks
Think,
pretty.
please give me your medical degree to let us know.
I think he will. I'm going to try and speak it into existence there. It's a fascinating list. Okay.
Price Sanford would be another one that I would throw out.
He's really good. We mentioned him on the show. Like, I think he's the most underrated player in the country, genuinely. Like, with what he does.
Terrace Reed would be another one.
Terrace Reed. Dude, this kind of goes in line with what I've been saying. Like,
Dalen
it is
Swain.
a joke how many good players there are in this sport this season. Like, you try and fit 17 names onto a list of 10. It's awesome. That's good stuff. I love that. I love both of you for hopping on here and going late. Sam, not late for you. You're prepping for dinner. It's daylight there. By the way, what's the temp outside right now in Australia? What are we working with?
It's a good question. I went for a run this morning in shorts and a long sleeve shirt, and it was great. So probably, I don't know, 65. Right now it might be like 80, honestly.
Wow.
But yeah, I haven't been outside in 4 hours, so I'm not.
It's nice in San Jose, I'm sure, Matt. So you're going to be all right.
I haven't been outside in 10 hours at this point. I will see both of you at the Final Four. Sam's coming stateside.
That's true.
Love to see it. This was a long pod, but it was a big time day. Appreciate everyone. You will get another pod, I believe, on Tuesday with me and GP. Josh is also mentioning that we didn't mention Taman Lipsy on the list. Again, one good player after another.
2:30 in the morning, Josh. Come on.
2:30. And by the way, live chat was humming. We appreciate that. Had to squeeze in another episode. So everyone, I hope you appreciate that we were able to give you these. The audience has been feasting on this stuff, so we didn't want to leave you hanging. Sam, always great when you hop on the show. We give you time to chat a little bit, and thank you so much. Fink, appreciate you as well. Fink will be in studio for CBS Sports HQ next week. I'll be on the road covering the West Regional, but you'll hear from me and GP before then. Josh, I appreciate you staying up. We got more guests coming throughout the tournament. GP and I will have more shows together, so don't worry, that's coming as well. Any final words from you two boys before we wrap it up?
Shouts to Larnell. That's it for me.
Okay.
Trotter and I have full Sweet 16 previews on CBS Sports Network tomorrow at noon Eastern time. So 9.5 hours. We'll be good.
There we go. There will be coaching movement on Monday. I don't intend on having emergency podcasts with that situation, but as always, stay tuned. Tuesday should be the latest. We'll have a show. Till then, take a minute, get your rest. Sweet 16 is coming up before you know it, and we'll talk to you real soon.